Dang! She slammed. What y'all think? What do y'all think? Hey guys, welcome back to Half Moon Customs. So it's Big John. Okay. All right. Camera decided or the tripod decided it didn't want to be up there. Anyway, welcome back and thanks for watching. I'm gonna show y'all tonight how to lower an F100 on a budget. Tonight, we're gonna do the rear end. I've already installed, with some help from Gerald and the Lorax, we've got the John Rod's drop beams in. These are the narrow track ones, which I'm hoping are gonna work out just fine, but we'll find out later. Basically, you're just swapping out your I-beams. But anyway, tonight we're going to install a flipped axle, basically, in the rear. Should give me about a 5-inch drop in the back. And then I want to add, I've got a 1.5 inch or 1 inch. I can't remember which one I ordered. It's one of the two of those. A 1-inch block. I'm rambling. So anyway, the way that I do this is I go in and actually put the axle. So what I do is I drop my leaf springs out. I have to take this bolt out, one of these out here. It doesn't matter which one. And then just drop that leaf spring out, put it underneath the axle. That's flipped. That's what they call a flipped axle. Because normally on these trucks, and a lot of different trucks, the axle is below the leaf spring. And so that in of itself makes this truck pretty difficult to lower if you don't put it on top of the leaf springs. But I will, for just a minute, go over some different ways to achieve a drop on these F100s. So let me see, I'm gonna have to have a little bit more light over here because we're working at night. I'm a night shifter, y'all. So one of the ways you can lower these trucks, don't mind any my bolt that's holding that for right now. I've got some replacement ones. The one way you can lower it is you can order a 2-inch drop shackle here that bolts in place of this. That allows this shackle, basically would allow this leaf spring to come up to here. Which on a dent side you might have clearance issues, on a bump side you don't at all. And you might say, well, what difference does that make? A 65 to 79 are all twin I-beams, same frame. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Partially wrong. So from the cab forward, the frames are all the same. But from the 73 to 79, your frame width is wider. Why? Because they wanted to accommodate a gas tank. So they went from a 34-inch width to a 37-inch width, and that plays you a little bit of clearance issues in this hanger. That's the reason why it's close to this bracket, whereas on a bump side it would not be. So for those of you wondering, you can't just take a 65 to 72 frame and use it on a dent side, because your bed bolt holes won't line up. You would end up having to drill new bolt holes. And without delving off into a whole lot of other things that are mismatched, the high boys that are up through 77.5 four-wheel drives, the bed is drilled to the bump side pattern, the 34-inch width, because high boy frames are 34. So anyway, you know, we're chasing rabbits at that point, but I just wanted to kind of show y'all a few different options you have when it comes to lowering these trucks. I personally prefer the John Rod's drop beams. They give me about a 4.5-inch drop up front, which is more than enough usually, but I like going a little excessive. Sometimes I'll put Explorer coils on top of that and really get it down. That's what my blue 76 out here has. And it's dark. We can't go out there. I'd show you it tonight. Another option you have is cutting these rivets on this hanger, and you can flip it. Okay, it's a little harder to do on a dent side because of this bracket here it kind of wants to interfere with where you put your bolt in. It's a little bit hard for me to explain without actually doing it to show you, but just trust me, when you go to flip it, one of your bolt holes hits kind of in this corner and makes it hard to put a nut on it. But that is an option. It's a very cheap option. If you're really trying to do this on a major budget, that's a good way to go. They have what's called a half hanger flip, and they have what's called a full hanger flip. And so you would take these loose, and then you just invert this upside down, pushing this part of the leaf spring up, which would relocate this mount further up this way, which you can see we've got, I don't know, a good 10, 11 inches anyway between that and the bed. But the problem with doing that is then you have to shim your axle, because remember the axle's down here and you push this point up. Now your axle pinion will be pointed up this way. So then you have to put a shim, a little wedge. It's a little wedge shaped shim. It's called a pinion shim. If you aren't familiar with that, they make them in different degrees. Typically on a short bed bump, if I was going to do a full front hanger flip, I'd want about a 6-degree shim. I've never done a dent. Yeah, we did do it. I did do a dent side. I can't remember, but I believe we did use a 6-degree on it as well. But you want to use something to pitch that axle back this way. But anyway, I just wanted to show you all the way that I do it, because there's lots of different options of ways to do it. But my options, or the way, not options, my way of doing things is I try to, I have a welder, so I mean, it makes it a lot easier for me. But here's what I do. What I do is I flip it, like we've already discussed. I put an axle saddle underneath it. I just line up this thing from the width. Like once you get everything moved out of place, you have to just kind of make sure, and it is a little bit of eyeballing. It's also a little bit of measuring. Once you get things kind of situated, you want to kind of measure, make sure it's the same distance from here to there as it is to there to there. You get the idea. Then what I do is I put my U-bolts on, clamp everything down, and then I tack it. Then I pull my U-bolts off, and I flip the axle back over, and I weld everything up where the axle saddle is welded to the axle. But one of the big things that I like to do that's a little bit different from some other people is I use a different U-bolt plate. So if you notice, this is the factory F100 U-bolt plate. Doesn't have any provisions for shocks. And the reason why it doesn't have any provisions for shocks is because the shocks are mounted originally to the axle. The problem with that is when you move this location, this axle, and the shock location, which would be here, up there, now your shocks are too short and they bottom out. That would be the stock length F100 shocks. So the go-to for me is this. Well, what is that? That is a Ford Explorer U-bolt plate. It is for I usually buy it for like the 99 2002 Ford Explorer. A lot of times what I do is I go to a junkyard and I try to get a complete axle, because the axle saddles are actually already on top of the leaf springs. And so when I go to the junkyard, I just pick everything. I get the axle saddles, I get the U-bolts, or not axle saddles, I get the U-bolt plate, I get the U-bolts, I get the pinion flange from the 8.8. Try to just get everything while I'm there, because it makes the most sense. Have all your parts picked out of a junkyard, costs you a whole lot less money. I mean, usually I get out of there for like $200, and I've got my drive shaft flange, I got my U-bolt plates, U-bolts. I don't have to buy nothing other than that, so I'm good to go. But on this one in particular, we're not putting an Explorer axle because it would be pretty narrow on a dent side. It could be done, but your tire to your leaf spring would be a lot tighter on an Explorer axle because, again, the frame is wider in the back, so this leaf spring is actually further out board than it would be on a bump side. So anyway, long story short, basically you want to try to get a Ford Explorer 99, 2002-ish U-bolt plate. Get the U-bolts if you can. If you're not using a block to raise it up, like lower it more, then you'll be okay. You can use the Ford Explorer U-bolts. I reuse them all the time. People say they're one-time use. Bull crap, I use them all the time. But you do you. Whatever works best for you. If you feel you need to replace them, then go ahead and replace them. I personally reuse them. So, what I like to do if I'm going to be using a drop block is I buy, these are from AutoZone. I was a little bit more on a time crunch of needing to get the truck back down on the wheels to where I can roll it around. These are 10-inch long by 3 3/8. That would be the ID here. Like the width between the bolts is 3 3/8. And these come in a 2-pack. That's a FH475065. That's your AutoZone part number. Not a plug for them at all. It's just that's what I found that was the right size that would work with this plate. The problem is using the Explorer U-bolt is it'd be too short with the block. So the one big thing that you have to do is you have to take that U-bolt plate and drill it out just a little bit because these are made for 1/2-inch hardware. This particular U-bolt plate U-bolts that I found, I think are 5/8. So you have to bore out the hole a little bit, drill them, and then those will work just fine. They slide right in, and you can see you just have to pinch them just a little bit to make them slide right in. But we'll get in. That was my toe. That was my shin. All this crap's falling because I got too many projects going at one time. But anyway, y'all, we'll get right into this. I'm gonna go ahead and try to get this thing set up on a, I get y'all set on a tripod where you can see what's going on as I go to install these in, so you can kind of see what this is gonna look like, because I didn't really film a whole lot of the engine swap, but we did a full engine swap on this truck. And I guess I was a little bit skittish to film it because I really didn't know whether it'd work or not. And honestly, I still don't for sure. But anyway, this from the bottom side, which I know you can't tell anything about, that's a 7.3 IDI diesel setting in a 2-wheel drive frame. And I've never seen that before. I haven't seen anyone else do it either. I thought it might not clear the tie rods, and I still don't know if it will, but this is the route that I'm going right now, and I'm sticking to it so far. I don't know if the oil pan to tie rod clearance is going to work. It is super close, as you can see from here to here. That is not much room at all. And I have jacked up the suspension and kind of put everything in place. You can see she's gonna be close. I'm gonna have to put it on the ground and look at it and turn the wheel back and forth. But that's the biggest interference thing I've found so far. So what we've done, just to kind of back up and talk for a second about the swap itself, really not that bad, not near as bad as I thought it would be. This engine cross members took a beating at some point in its life. It's been in this way. But what we done is we took the factory. These are like small block Ford. They would be like a 335 series. I think I'm saying it right. Anyway, small block Ford, like your standard 302, 351 Windsor mounts. And this was a 400, which apparently takes the exact same as well because it's a 351M basically. Bigger stroke, blah, 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 blah. Ford swapped all kinds of crap out. Anyway, these are the factory mounts that was on this truck. Pedestals, engine pedestals, if you will. The only thing different, as you can see, there's some welds here. I think you can see. Let me turn some light on with this flashlight so that you can see. So as you can see here, what we've done is I took this is the actual OBS engine pedestal that was out of my 88 F350 donor. I took that plate off, and it has a slot for that stud off that motor mount, but the factory F100 one does not have one for the second hole on that motor mount. Anyway, long story short, welded that to this perch, which allowed me to accommodate the other stud for the engine motor mount. And yeah, just bolted it in. It was pretty much all there was to it. It wasn't too bad at all. But I'll get into that more in another video. Tonight, I just want to kind of show y'all how to lower the rear end of this thing and show you how to do a, you know, a quick flip kit, but also be able to locate your shocks, because that's the big goal here. Is anytime you do lower one, everyone says, oh, it rides like crap, it's going to be horrible, oh, it'll be a log wagon. Well, you know, maybe so if you're riding with someone who don't know what they're doing, but when I get done with one, this thing's going to glide down the road, because I'm going to have my shocks in, I'm going to have my springs located, I'm going to have enough axle clearance, because more than likely I'm going to end up needing a mini C-notch in here. And when I do, I'll go ahead and cut in a mini C-notch to make sure that this axle has enough room. I want this axle to have enough room to clear when it comes up. And all of that is pivotal. I mean, it is so important when it comes to suspensions and lowering and lifting. You got to look at all your factors, and a lot of people get, you know, they hack this stuff, and well, it's what you get. You get a log wagon. I just kind of wanted to go over it with y'all so you could see how to lower it. Anyway, let's get to work. A little bit of a challenge working with a work light at night under a truck. I'm kind of used to the driveway thing, working out, you know, like most of y'all, I'm sure. You're just kind of used to working with what you got. And it's kind of nice having a lift. I'm still not used to it. So I got about 6 3/8 on that side. Let's step over here and see what we got. See how close I am with the old eagle eye. 6 5/8. So I'm a little bit off, not bad. Let me double check that one more time. 6 and, yeah, well, I got 6 5/8 that time. Going right up against that. Yeah. 6 5/8. Okay, never mind, we're good. All right, so we're good there. This is gonna be a bit of my, you know, I guess you say piss poor excuse for cleaning up before welding, but I'm gonna take U-bolts back out of the way, and I'm gonna go ahead and use this wire brush on the axle right where this is going, because I want to be able to at least get a tack on it, because I've got to get the welder over here and tack this down. So try to get this cleaned up enough to get a tack on it. My old auto shop instructor used to always say, cleanliness is next to godliness. And then he'd slap you on the back of the head. Bow! Because I guess you weren't cleaning it good enough for him. Cleanliness is next to godliness. But we're going to do the best we can. That way we can at least get a tack on it. All right, let's throw some hardware on. Ouch. That's another thing I ain't used to working with a lift. I ain't used to having to worry about hitting my head. I should have been recording the other day when Gerald was here. Gerald hit his head I don't know how many times. I think we had a hit, like a ding count, you know what I mean? Like how many times each of us had hit our head. It was pretty bad. I know I hit it one time pretty hard, and then I know I heard Mike hit at least one time pretty hard. And Gerald, I don't even know. It was like you could have been like in prison tallying your days or something. He hit it 5 or 6 times at least. Like, it's a good thing he's got a thick skull. I will caution you a little bit. Be careful on these U-bolts, especially the Chinesium ones, which these should be decent quality. Some of the ones you get though are not going to be the best quality, and you got to worry about your threads, especially when your U-bolt plate is hand drilled to fit. Anyway, point in case, sometimes you might want to put some anti-seize on these, especially if you're finding it hard to line them up. So, I guess one big thing about these when you're putting these U-bolt plates on is you got to watch that pin that sticks out the bottom of that leaf spring pack. You want to try to make sure that your U-bolt plate is centered up in it when you tighten it up. Now, I'm not going to get too carried away with tightening that up yet because I don't have my pinion angle set yet. And right now I just have it kind of eyeballed roughly where I think it's going to be. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to jack this axle up in place until it's almost, you know, full weight. And then what I'll do is I'll be able to adjust the pinion a little bit by, you know, loosening up U-bolts and twisting the axle just a little bit to get my pinion angle just right. You don't want to do this with your suspension at full droop. So you want your droop is the axle setting down here. You want your axle lifted up into place where it's going to sit or ride your ride height. That way, when you go to put it on the road, you start driving it. If you've set it at full droop, when you go to drop it, this pinion that you set up here like this is going to be up here, angle off. So I always try to jack my axle up and put it in place before I set my pinion angle. Some of y'all may have a better way of doing it. I'm all ears. But anyway, that's how I do things. All right, let's get the heck out of Dodge. All right, so that should be about where we're gonna set body height wise, or drop wise. Top of the tire is basically right underneath that fender lip. So that's full weight on it. Now, here is the big question, is where's our pitting angle setting? And if you look online, typically they say, I believe if I'm not mistaken, you want 3 down and 3 up. Transmission 3 down, axle 3 up. I will double check that because I can't remember anything anyway. So many of you probably have your own little degree finder. Me personally, I do too. It's called an iPhone. If you go to your measure app, hit level, you will find degrees. Works pretty good, believe it or not. And it's digital. Digital. So if I lay that against it with, if I get it off the buttons, that would be about 1 degree. 1 degree pause. And I think we said we wanted, what, 3? Let's do a quick old interwebs search. Make sure. So yeah, looks like 3 degrees positive. So I'm gonna have to tip the yoke up just a hair, which should be no trouble at all. Hopefully, fingers crossed. 2 degrees difference from what we've got at the moment, which would be really easy if I had a 3rd jack, but I don't have a 3rd jack on this lift. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna try to do it by hand. I'll loosen these bolts up. Yeah, okay, so 3 degrees up. We'll roll with that. 3 degrees up, then the carrier bearing should be at the same 3 degrees, so it would be 3 degrees down. So I'll have to play with that a little bit. Dang! She slammed. Slammed. What y'all think? What do y'all think? Alright, y'all. So that's where I'm gonna end this video. Y'all saw basically how to do it. You saw basically everything as to how it's done. It's pretty basic. Just you know, if you've got a welder, it makes a world of a difference. If you've got a 2-post lift, oh my gosh, it makes it a whole lot different. But the last one I didn't use a 2-post lift. I did it out here in the driveway, even when I had a shop. I had a shop full of crap and just didn't have time to do it in the, you know, clean stuff in the shop. And so I did it out there. It's doable. What's your excuse? I mean, that sounds kind of conceited with a 2-post lift and, you know, all that. But anyway, I'm just saying I've been there. Anyway, guys and gals, I guess we have some gals, maybe. Hey, if you're a lady and you watch this channel, please comment, because it would be nice to at least know we have at least a few female subscribers. I don't know. So far, all I've heard from is guys, so that's why I always say y'all and, you know, hey guys. So anyway, I'm being goofy here, but go to close it out and the battery dies on the GoPro. Go figure, GoPro battery sucks again. Maybe y'all can get a good look at this. What do you think? She's low and she's long. I think it looks pretty killer myself, from my viewpoint. Front end is 4.5-inch drop beams, but the big kicker there is it's 4.5-inch drop beams, F150 coil springs, which are rated for a 400 V8, and it has a 7.3 IDI diesel in it right now, which is squatting the crap out of those springs. So I don't know whether those will work or not. There's your good view. It's kind of what she's going to look like from the back. I like it. Whole new stance. Stance makes everything, guys. You know, when you have it like stock height, it's kind of bland. I rated it it's like a B-rated movie. Slam it, lift it, do something, make it different, make it custom, make it half moon customs. That's what you need to do. I'm just messing around, y'all. Thanks for watching. Thanks for checking us out. Anyway, I'll just show off this little IDI swap real quick. Still some pretty big details to iron out on it. I've got to add a dual battery tray. Let's see. Air box to valve cover is a really tight fit. Hood clearance is at a premium. The alternator fuel filter assembly is very, very tall, but it does clear. The hood shuts. The air filter cleaner does not clear. I'm gonna have to do some work on that. Currently, the transmission speedometer cable is not in the right location, as you can see. This is the kickdown linkage coming off the transmission. It's kind of in a bind, but I think some of that is the speedometer cable bound up. I mean, even like the transmission dipstick, this is a C6 transmission. It's barely clearing, but it's in there. The valve cover to the brake booster is a no-go. That is absolutely touching, if not maybe even holding the cab up. I don't think it is, because it looks pretty close to the cab mounts where it's supposed to be. I got to fabricate a Sandon AC compressor mount. We actually took the whole cab off of this thing, lifted it off to make it easier to not mount. That way, so I had plenty of room to figure out where to set the engine transmission, but I also had that AC compressor and all that setup was put on that engine. It was brand new. I didn't want to cut or take anything loose. So I'm gonna fabricate me a little Sandon AC compressor mount for an IDI, and I will end up going with a Hydro Boost. I've got a 2001-ish F250 Hydro Boost setup. Battle Born brakes again, be using those brackets to mount that. It just makes things a whole lot simpler as far as valve cover to brake booster clearance. I could probably put a smaller brake booster, but I've used the Hydro Boost and I love it on that high boy. It'll slam you through the windshield if you nail the brakes. I mean, it's there. The pressure difference is just unreal. When you're bleeding the brakes, don't stand in front of the brake bleeder because it will squirt brake fluid 20 feet. It's a world of difference on the brake pressure. But anyway, I think this is where we'll end for the night. I'm not done, but you know, we'll pick up y'all later, and appreciate you watching. Hope you hit the like, and you know what to do. We'll catch you in the next one, and keep working on this 79, see if we can get it done. But if you want to learn how to lower your F100, and you want to learn how to do it, I don't know, you want to do the mild drop, like 2 inches drop, 4 inches drop, 6 inches drop. You want to do something wild, like you want to do something really wild, like you want to do like a, I don't know, a Mustang S550 rear end, like from a 2015 Mustang. We do it. You're at the right place. This is Half Moon Customs, over and out. We will show you how to do anything mild to wild. Catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.